1800s. Three lighthouse keepers were living on a tiny island off the coast of Scotland. Their job was simple: keep the lighthouse running. Then a relief ship arrived. The crew expected the three men to come down and meet them, but nobody came. They tried to signal the lighthouse. Nothing. So one man climbed the steps towards the lighthouse to find out why. And when they entered, the three lighthouse keepers were gone. The house stood on Alien Moor, one of the remote Flannan Islands west of Scotland. The island was isolated, exposed to the Atlantic, and difficult to reach. Three men were stationed there: James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur. They were experienced lighthouse keepers. The lighthouse had only been operating for little over a year, and on December 15, 1900, a passing ship reported that the lighthouse light wasn't visible, but bad weather made an immediate investigation difficult. 11 days later, on December 26, the lighthouse tender Hesperus finally reached the island. The ship's crew expected the keepers to be there, but there was no signal. No one came down to the landing place. Joseph Moore, one of the relieving keepers, went to investigate. He entered the lighthouse. The room were there, the equipments were there, but the three men weren't. There was no obvious signs of where they had gone. And now the question wasn't simply where are they? It was, why would all three men leave the lighthouse at the same time? Investigators examined the lighthouse and the surrounding area. Outside there were signs of damage around the landing areas, including damaged equipment and other effects of rough weather. The location itself was dangerous. The lighthouse stood above steep cliffs surrounded by the Atlantic, so investigators had to consider a frightening possibility. Perhaps the man had gone outside during bad weather and never made it back. But there was an obvious problem. Nobody had seen them leave. Nobody had witnessed an accident, and three men were never found. From here, the story became a mystery. Also, the explanation closer to the official investigation. The men may have gone outside to deal with damage near the landing area. A powerful wave could then have swept them from the rocks and into the sea. This theory makes sense because of the lighthouse exposed location and evidence of rough condition around the landing area. But there's one major problem. We don't know what happened. There was no eyewitnesses. It's a construction of events. Another possibility is that the men went outside because they were concerned about the damage around the landing area. If they believed something needed to be secured, more than one keeper might have gone outside, and once they were near the cliffs, a sudden wave could have caught them. This theory is closest to connect to the first one. The difference is that tries to explain why they would have left the safety of the lighthouse in the first place. But again, we don't have a witness telling us that this is what happened. Over the years, the disappearance had inspired much stranger theories. Some versions of the story suggest that
Over the
something
years,
unusual
many
happened to the men
strange
before
theories
they
have
disappeared.
emerged. Was it a
Others have
massive rogue
imagined
wave,
everything from an
or
accident
something more
involving all three
supernatural?
men to explanation that have little connection to the historical evidence. But there's an important distinction here. Being repeated for hundreds of years doesn't make it an evidence. The further a theory moves away from the documented evidence, the more cautious we should be about treating it as an explanation. What we know: three lighthouse keepers were stationed on Alien Moor. The lighthouse was reported missing. A relief ship reached the island on December
Over the
26th.
years,
The
many
three men
strange
were
theories
gone.
have emerged.
Evidence
Was it a
indicated the
massive
rough
rogue
weather that
wave,
had
or
affected the
something more
landing areas,
supernatural?
and despite searching and investigation, the men were never recorded. Everything beyond those facts became a matter of interpretation. The official explanation was that the three keepers were probably
Countless
swept
theories
into
have
the
sought
sea
to
by a
explain the
powerful
mystery.
wave. And
Was it an
honestly, it's a
unstoppable
perfect
rogue wave?
possibility
Did a sea
explanation.
monster
A
pull them
possible
in?
isn't the
Was it
same
something
thing as proven.
supernatural?
We don't know exactly why the men left the lighthouse. We don't know precisely what happened at the landing area. And we don't know what their final moments were like. All we know for certain is that three men were responsible for
Over the
keeping a
years,
light burning
many
on a
strange
remote
theories
island,
have
and
emerged.
one day the
Was it a
lighthouse
massive
was
rogue
left
wave
without its
or
keeper.
something more
More than a
supernatural?
century, the lighthouse still stands. The ocean is still there, the cliffs are still there. But the answer to what happened to James Ducat, Thomas Marshall, and Donald MacArthur went with